Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new week of astrology to get into. This week, again, I do feel like energetically we're in a bit of a pickle out there. Things really are all jammed up. We have a conflict-prone energy happening this week for more reasons than just one. We got a lot of planets that are really kind of like pushing things to a head this week. First and foremost, as we open the week on Monday, we have a big mutable square going on in the sky featuring Venus in the sign of Gemini, exactly squaring Mars in the sign of Virgo, but that's not all. The nodes of the moon are involved in this as well. The north node in the sign of Pisces, south node in Virgo, exactly conjunct and opposite Mars, exactly square Venus. And on Monday, the moon transiting the sign of Gemini is also going to be triggering and amplifying this energy, as the moon will hit the conjunction to Venus and the square to the nodes and Mars as well. Masculine and feminine dynamics, there could be some conflict going on within counterparts, within relationships. I do think disagreements, misunderstandings, people not seeing eye to eye, not being on the same page, also things from the past being exposed and being the topic of conversation, but perhaps in a way that is more like gossip or rumor than actual truth, and an inability to discern what is actually real and what is some type of just like fiction or slander. That could be something that is of primary significance somehow this week as well. Information being weaponized, I would say, kind of is a thread that's weaving through all of the energy that we have coming into fruition this week, and it could definitely be upsetting the balance of things, disturbing the peace, or creating conflict in relationship dynamics. On Tuesday, we also have a bit of a vibe shift going on. The sun leaves the sign of Cancer, enters the sign of Leo, but therefore comes into an opposition with Pluto. Sun opposite Pluto, another strong feature of our energy field this week, and this is another energy that like pits powerful forces against one another. Ultimately, purge, regeneration, renewal, but there could be some very powerful confrontations that go on throughout the course of the week somehow. And we got a lot to talk about, you guys. There's, of course, more than that. We've got a new moon taking place this week. We're going to have the moon in square to Saturn and Neptune on Tuesday also. Let's get into it. Lots to talk about, lots to discuss, and Mercury's retrograde. So much information we need to go through today, you guys. Let's get into the report. Let's put it all together, take a good look at where we're at to get our week started and how things are unfolding for us as we head throughout our week. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. Today is Monday, July 21st, 2025. My name is Aubrey. This is your astrological outlook of the day, where we are narrating the shift of the ages. And if you guys stick with me until the end of this video, I have done a collective tarot reading for us today as well. I like to tap the energy field from more than one modality whenever I'm doing these energy overviews, just to get an alternative energetic perspective on what's going on out there. So there could be some messages in there for you. We will do that at the end. We got a whole lot of astrology to get into. Again, this is probably going to be another, well, it is going to be another like jam-packed information report, tons to report on, tons going on out there. And I am also, full disclosure, recording this video on the 18th of July. Mercury's stationing retrograde today, and I am a Gemini ascendant, so please forgive me if I like make a mistake or make an error in reporting this, get something wrong. I'm already kind of like expecting that somewhere throughout the course of this report, I'm probably going to screw something up somehow. So anyways, hoping for the best. And that also is kind of, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a vibe this week. There is, I think, a more like mistake / correction prone energy going on as well, on the side of course, this more conflict oriented nature of the way that things may be playing themselves out there this week as well. When I was preparing my notes for the day and I first started sitting with the energy that we have coming on this week, like I don't even play golf, but the concept of being like stuck in a sand trap or like in the rough, or I think that's what it's called, or just like, stuck in the mud somehow, and things just maybe being in a bit of a jam, like this to me is kind of where we're at, and it could just be another week where we kind of like need to see how things play out, find ourselves like needing to resolve maybe some type of sticky situation that comes up somehow. I do think also though, like the nature of the way that this energy is functioning, in a lot of cases, it's probably going to be out of our control. It's like not even necessarily that we are unprepared or that we did something wrong, but maybe just like the nature of the way that like events surrounding our situation are playing out somehow or causing some type of major interference or conflict in our own experience. And I mean, of course, it could be going the other way as well. Again, making mistakes, errors in judgment, people being like just overly rash or overly critical or jumping to conclusions or misperceiving something as a source of conflict as well. And also this real strong Mercury retrograde energy that's happening. It's kind of funny because while we do have these, you know, these big squares and big oppositions going on this week, Mercury to me is actually the planet that's kind of like running the show, and Mercury retrograding in Leo I think is going to be somehow like intermingled with the way that a lot of these like conflicts and, you know, arguments or issues or gossip or tabloids or like whatever it is, the weird information, skewed information component of things is either, you know, surrounded around or colored by or just like about something like that. The Mercury retrograde energy I think is going to be real strong, real prominent. So that means, of course, like miscommunications, texts and calls and stuff not getting through, things getting lost in translation, also breakdowns. Like I do not imagine this is a week again where we're gonna have a real great amount of success in like following through with things and getting productive outcomes and results, because it just seems like a lot is not working. Again, things being jammed up somehow, breakdowns, both in the informational field, communication, technology, like device center breakdowns, like our inability to like get a clear message across somehow or communicate what we need to. But also, I mentioned in my intro, we have the sun opposing Pluto this week. That can indicate breakdowns happening in terms of like machinery or motors or engines or the thing that is required to like push things forward, move things forward, get a job done. Energy levels are also likely to be very depleted and very low throughout the course of the week. We are sort of at a 2-year energetic dip right now, even in terms of like physical energy levels, mental health, vitality generally, because Mars ruling the physical body, ruling our energy, ruling our vitality, and in the sign of Virgo also like ruling our immune system. There could be fevers, infections, like the body under attack somehow, weakened or vulnerable physical states, also mental health issues. I like don't think our head's gonna be in the game for one reason or another this week. Distractions, stagnation, interference, conflict, things just not flowing in a streamlined manner. This is likely to be a lot of what we're going to get. So as a result of that, again, I do think this is another week not to push it. You know, take a load off, rest, don't set the bar too high, do the little things. When we're talking about Mercury energy, Mercury rules like all the little things, like here and there, in and out, and also like the little details and just like little things. And so, you know, trying to accomplish some great feat, like get some productive result, probably not the vibe, not the story, not the outcome, but our ability to kind of just like check maybe like little things off here and there, or focus maybe on learning and also like mistakes and corrections. This I do think is where energy is more geared and oriented in terms of some type of productive outcome going on this week. But powerful face-offs, you guys, confrontations, especially in relationship dynamics, especially having to do with financial situations. And there is also this gossip, slander, rumors, tabloids, headlines, spreading or spinning like wildfire on a roller coaster. We could like literally see that type of stuff going on. Definitely clashing narratives, people fighting to maintain power, to maintain dominance, to maintain the status of their image, of their reputation, of their like prestige. There could be some like, honestly, there could be some like falls from grace that are somehow going on this week, having to do with like celebrity class, elite class, like kings, rulers, dynasties, and this is because we have a strong Leo energy that's coming in, but the Leo energy that's coming in is being countered quite terrifically by Pluto in Aquarius on one hand and Mercury retrograding through the sign of Leo, when all of this crazy square energy is happening in its exactness in both of Mercury's signs. So literally like dueling narratives, like two sides of the story. Nobody knowing which way is up and which way is down, or if we're going left or if we're going right, or, you know, what is wrong or what is right. Again, a lot of this confusion, a lot of this like muddled ability to gain a true sense of clarity here. And people fighting to maintain power, to maintain their stronghold. Confrontations also leading to probably shocking revelations that just could blow your socks off somehow and change everything. There is a very powerful inclination here towards purge, purification, and a process of renewal through destruction that could be going on somehow. This is also centered around like things that have been hidden from the past coming out in a way that really could be like pitting people against one another, causing conflict, causing breakdown, causing these like clashes of ideas and ideologies and information being weaponized, you guys, also very highlighted this week. So while we do have like a strong vibe talking about, you know, the rumors and the gossip and the word of mouth and heard it through the grapevine, there is I would say a stronger than normal like aptitude here for some of that to be coming from a literal attempt to weaponize information against somebody to like bring down their reputation or destroy their image or their reputation somehow. So a lot of this information is going to be like very inaccurate, very flawed, very untrue. However, what's real, where the situation gets really, you know, sketchy, tricky, hard to deal with, is that a lot of the information probably will be true also, and discerning, you know, which part of this is fact and which part of this is fiction and what the overall story means as a result could be causing us to feel like we're like stuck in that sand trap or caught in the mud again, or just like things are all jammed up for some reason. Nothing is off the table this week, you guys. There could be some true wild cards that are coming through somehow. There's so many ways that things could go. We literally have the North Node on Monday to get the week started at 20 degrees of the sign of Pisces. That Sabian symbol is a table set for an evening meal. And on Monday, as Venus hits exact square to the nodes at that degree, and therefore Mars as well, Venus is at 20 degrees of the sign of Aquarius, or sign of Gemini. That Sabian symbol is a cafeteria with an abundance of choices. So that is where symbolically that square energy is lining up via degree placement, a table set for an evening meal, and a cafeteria with an abundance of choices. Be careful, you know, what you're picking and choosing and putting on your plate this week, what you're taking on, okay? This could, you know, what you're wishing for This could also represent difficult choices, difficult feelings, and feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling unclear, maybe feeling isolated, feeling like you are missing or lacking or losing something, maybe a piece of information, maybe just feeling like you don't have your head on straight personally. Be very careful with money, deals, purchases, investments. Not only do we have Mercury retrograde, you guys, but we have this square featuring Venus, who also rules money, value, purchases, investments, in the sign of Gemini, you know, ruled by Mercury in the square to Mars and the square to the nodes, ruled by Mercury, being that they are in the sign of Virgo, and Mercury's going retrograde. A lot of like the choices, the decisions, you know, what we're jumping into right now, if we're not being careful, if we are pushing or forcing things like beyond where they seem to be willing to go at the moment, if we are getting in over our head right now, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of corrections are probably going to be need to be made in the future, considering that we've got all of this Gemini Virgo square energy going on, and it's featuring the nodes of the moon too. This is destiny and karma. Like, these are important either like breakdowns or questions or arguments that are happening, or alternative sides of the story or information that's being presented. But with Mercury being retrograde for all of this, I just think that like if we are too quick to choose, too quick to decide, or just like throwing money at things or buying things right now, they're probably going to end up, you know, needing to be corrected, needing to be adjusted, needing to be fixed somehow, breaking down, not being what we thought they were, or being more of a source of like difficulty and trouble than maybe what we, you know, had intended them for. So be careful with that type of stuff. Something also is like not straightforward, not correct, not rational, and there could be issues with balance, fairness, reciprocity, value, trade, transactions. You know, be careful that you're not like getting scammed on something. That could go along with this energy as well. Pay attention to the details. Like, for the love of God, right now, it is the little things. Literally, Mars in the south node in the sign of Virgo. That is the devil in the details energy. But we also, this is also mutable energy. The north node in the sign of Pisces, Venus square the north node as well, Mars opposite the north node. We need to be able to let things go. We need to be able to release. This is about transition. This is about change. It's about adaptation. This is about adjustment. Be willing to go with the flow, to adapt, to release, to get rid of things, and to let go as much as possible if the need arises. If we are trying to cling to things, if we are trying to force things, if we are trying to control things, that energy is very likely to backfire and make things more difficult than they would be if we would sort of just like loosen up the reins a little bit this week and be able to let the cards fall, see how things play out, and be willing to change, adjust, adapt, and again, like, go with the flow. These are real tricky energies and days that we've got to navigate this week, and last week was the same. July has been a bit of a circus out there, I would wager to say. It's going to be real interesting also to see what comes with this new moon in the sign of Leo that we've got coming up this week as well. On Thursday, I think it was, that I saw we have a new moon in Leo that is going to be exactly opposite Pluto. So that's like pow, 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 bang, bang, like big transformations and stuff underway. But the fact that we've got Pluto and the sun in an opposition this week while we have that new moon coming up, and of course we'll talk all about it. That will be our next video, you guys. The new moon in Leo opposite Pluto in Aquarius is going to be the topic of conversation in the video that comes out on Wednesday. But the fact that that dynamic is coming into play this week, while we have Mars and the South Node together, the South Node is karmic release, purge, letting go, transition, loss, and Pluto can often represent a lot of the same things. This is that same purge energy, regeneration, ultimately for the purpose of renewal, but Pluto has a tendency of being the Phoenix rising energy. Often there is a transformation, a destruction of the old in order for the birth of the new to be able to take place. So we've got energy featured a couple of ways this week that is, to me, talking about again, like this drain on energy, something going out. It's a really great week to take out the trash, literally, metaphorically. Another thing that is really good to do in this energy, and I actually have this written down further in my report, so we'll go back to it, we'll talk about it again, but shining the light where the light doesn't normally shine, like cleaning up the closets and like under the bed or like the garage, stuff like that we like house all of our clutter and chaos and mess and stuff in, but don't necessarily pay too much attention to, think about that much, address, just sort of like let it be that way. This is a really, really good week. You'll actually find that it goes better than you would expect, and you'll have more energy if you are using your energy to like get rid of things, to like actively clear things out, clean things up, and especially the things that we usually, again, like prefer not to look at. So, yeah, that's another good way to use the energy this week. But this is a difficult week. We are having to figure out how to redirect or correct things in order to get out of that sand trap, to get like free of that jam, to get things back on track, to get them back on course, from, again, like what could be some type of like seeming melee out there last week, this week, these weeks generally. And if you make a mistake, you guys, make a correction. That, I think, is kind of like our golden ticket in this energy, because as I said, potential for mistakes, for errors is accentuated somehow right now. There, I mean, with the Gemini Virgo squares taking place, people saying what they didn't mean to say as well, you know, errors in also like written and verbal communication, all types of errors, all types of mistakes, buyer's remorse and stuff like that, like I was saying earlier as well. But try not to be so hypercritical of yourself, you know, don't necessarily attach to any feelings of weakness or failure or inadequacy that could come up right now. Just be aware of this enhanced tendency to make mistakes. Really try to double, triple check everything. Be careful that, you know, you mean to say what you're saying before it comes out of your mouth. And, you know, if you make a mistake, make a correction. Slow and steady, one step at a time. Do not rush. Do not push this week. And also, it just is what it is. Like with an energetic setup like this, you may feel like you're backtracking. You may feel like you are losing grounding, like losing your footing on something somehow. You could feel like you're going in reverse, like you took a couple or like one step forward and two steps backwards. And that might be the case in the energy of this week. But again, like we're at actually like a 2-year energetic low right now. Mars and the South Node only come together approximately every couple of years, every 2 years or so. And the South Node drains energy. This is a time of active karmic release. Karmic release is kind of synonymous with like having to go through a bunch of like really difficult situations, maybe emotional situations, maybe trying situations, these trials and tribulations that generally perhaps we would avoid at all costs. But in our, you know, 3D earth plane reality experience, oftentimes suffering is what births wisdom and true power. And so when we're dealing with breaking karmic cycles, it is that wisdom that is gained through that suffering that is the key that we turn to release ourselves from the shackles of these karmic bonds. Okay, so when we're dealing with collective karmic release and situations of karmic release generally, a lot of times it translates into some like very challenging, difficult, painful, like dark night of the soul, rock bottom, just like real having to go through it type of experiences. But when we come out the other side, it's like the lesson has finally been learned and we don't need to repeat that. And not only that, we are much more empowered to consciously direct the course of our experiences going forward, because we are not any longer caught in those karmic cycles pertaining to that specific lesson that was associated with whatever that karma was. So when we talk about a phase of active karmic release, you know, oftentimes it's going to translate into a more messy, just, again, like difficult, challenging experience in our lives. But once we learn the lesson, we're never going back. So that is also, I just think, kind of the nature of things right now, not to, you know, downplay the challenging nature of life in reality and events and all in these moments. But it does seem to be on a higher level a point of active karmic release. And again, this is an energetic low point, in my opinion. Mars is our energy body, the physical body, our vitality, our immunity. With the South Node there, that is a drain on energy. And we also, remember, have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars. That is also kind of like a weak willpower. This is not strengthening like our motivation, our enthusiasm, you know, the will to like seize the day and charge ahead. This is also kind of like disorienting our perception of self. This is a difficult time with self-discipline, with self-control, with really like knowing how to build and what to do next and how to move forward. So it's just, it is what it is. Like, that's what I keep saying about these times right now. But we do need to understand, so much of this that's going on right now is not going to end up being the way that it seems to be playing out now, like when all is said and done. There are still some real wild cards that are pending, I think, as we move through this next couple of weeks. And while we may feel like we're backtracking, while we may feel like we're sort of going in reverse, or things just aren't heading in the right direction, again, this is actually part of some greater process of growth that is underway right now. We are at the bottom of this energetic dip. When we do come up the other side again, I think that instead of, you know, taking one step forward and 2 steps backwards, I think that we're going to take like 10 leaps forward all of a sudden out of nowhere. And it will be like we will be like arriving at a state of even greater progress and growth in terms of our process of change and like forward movement right now than maybe we had experienced previously or even anticipated. So all is definitely not lost with this, although, you know, something very well might be. The South has to do with loss and with endings and with what we're releasing and letting go. Mars is our energy, right? That's why I'm saying actively getting rid of stuff that maybe had been causing clutter, or maybe had been causing energy blockages, or maybe had been interfering with like the free flow or the ability for things to be streamlined like in some way somehow, or just had been like an unnecessary excess. Also, this is a good utilization of energy such as this. But I do think it's also a good week to be a bit hands-off if possible. As I was saying earlier, you know, we kind of want to like let the cards fall here, let things play out, because it is very hard to discern, very hard to tell just like what side of the story is the side that is going to end up prevailing or end up being correct or end up even being real right now. Stoicism, active observation, detachment, faith. This is the way of the warrior this week, you guys, with Mars in the South Node. I do think together cooler heads will prevail. I will also tell you, just from saying that, the degree that the sun moves to on Tuesday, when the sun enters the sign of Leo, the sun will be at 1 degree of the sign of Leo. That Sabian symbol is under emotional stress. Blood rushes to a man's head. And I do think it benefits us this week to kind of, you know, keep that in consideration and just like try not to let things go to our head, get the best of us, or let our emotions run the show to the best of our ability. Now, let's talk about the aspects more specifically. We do open the week on Monday, as I have already stated, with Venus in the sign of Gemini at 19 degrees of Gemini, exactly square the north of the south, north and south nodes of the moon, 19 degrees Pisces and Virgo, and also Mars exactly conjunct the South Node at 19 degrees of Virgo. So exact squares all the way around. And what do I always tell you guys? The moon has to find a way to be involved. The moon is like a trigger. It's like an amplifier. It's like a, what are those things called that you speak through, that a bullhorn for energy. When we have a big aspect that is playing out in the sky, such as Venus square the nodes and Mars exactly on Monday, and the moon decides to get involved, it epitomizes and emphasizes and amplifies the nature of that energy. So we are talking about, it's going to be real hard to avoid the impacts of this square for pretty much everybody. I think in the energy of Monday, we're probably all going to be coming up against this node Mars Venus square, either, you know, just within ourselves, feeling a bit irritated and mentally and emotionally conflicted maybe, or in terms of literally like just nobody having it together and everything again seeming like sort of a mess out there. Remember, we also have Mercury retrograding in the sign of Leo, ruled by the sun, hothead, right, who is ruling all of this energy. Okay, so we've got the square between Venus, Mars, the nodes of the moon, and the moon is exactly conjunct Venus on Monday as this energy hits. So this could be conflicting narratives. Again, this is where the rumors, gossip, like slandered through the grapevine energy comes through. This is also indicating to me this potential for downfalls, specifically related to kings, emperors, rulers, celebrities, dynasties, the rich and famous, Hollywood, influencers, like the elite class of entertainers and, you know, Hollywood celebrities and stuff like that. This is because Mercury is in the sign of Leo. This could have to do with shows, it could have to do with performances, it could have to do with actors, musicians, it could have to do with drama, or it could literally have to do with like dynasties and kings and legacies of power. Information wars, verbal battles, weaponized information, legal battles, conflicting sides to a story, and it could also literally be like men and women, or masculine and feminine, in an argument about something. I do imagine that we could see some crazy headlines going on this week, maybe even like disgraced rulers or celebrities or something like that that is somehow taking center stage or being highlighted. We could also see, you know, like all that glitters not turning to gold, but turning to ashes this week, with the sun in Leo opposite Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. Again, though, we want to be real mindful, be really careful choosing a side, be really careful jumping to conclusions, be really careful formulating an opinion, because a lot of this is probably not going to be true, not going to be accurate. Again, like information being used as a weapon in attempt to bring about somebody else's downfall. Weaponized information would definitely be a theme in an energetic setup like this, but I do think this is where a lot of this confusion is likely to stem from, because it will almost be impossible to tell who's being honest, who has the correct information, who's telling the truth. And I think that's because I don't think either side is being fully honest, to be honest with you. It almost seems like no one is entirely accurate in their depiction of events or their side of the story. No one really knows what's going on. People could even be under the impression that their information is accurate and they are just remembering things in a skewed way somehow, or like they think they saw something. Like this is a energy where it's like it's hard to even believe your own eyes and your own ears and your own opinions and your own thoughts and your own like personal recounts of things, because there is such a distortion in the energy field right now that, you know, you could have thought they were wearing a blue shirt, but when you look back at the picture, they actually were wearing a red shirt the whole time. You know, it could be something as simple as that, but like that is just that level of disorienting. So that is one thing that we're dealing with. Aside from the Mars-Venus node square situation going on while Mercury's retrograde, we also have this Sun-Pluto opposition. This is bringing up the outer planets that have been so engaged in our collective experience lately. Neptune and Saturn both retrograde in a conjunction in the sign of Aries, and also Uranus at 0 degrees of the sign of Gemini. You guys, when the sun enters Leo, not only will the Pluto opposition be kicking off, but the sun will also be trining Saturn and Neptune in Aries and sextiling Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So all those outer planets in aspect, Uranus, Pluto, Neptune and Saturn, and their seeming role in literally creating this larger paradigm shift that is underway right now, that is going to be real activated and kicked off by whatever's going on here. I don't know, you guys, this seems like the dam breaking in some regard, and like the dam representing the like withholding maybe of some type of truth, some type of knowledge, some type of information, and then so much pressure building up that the dam breaks and like everything spills out. And I don't know, maybe there's like a level of chaos that ensues or something like that. But this Sun-Pluto oppositions always bring and have the potential to bring intense power struggles, confrontations. It is these powerful forces coming to a head. But considering the fact that we also have this Saturn-Neptune conjunction going on, and the Uranus-Pluto trine as well, which will be now sextiled by the sun, those forces in combination to me are representing, on one hand, the breakdown of the essentially like structural foundation of that our paradigm has been built on historically and in the past, giving way to some radical new idea of how things are going to be going forward, and this like new emerging like space age paradigm that's like about to start coming into fruition like as a result. I feel like it's describing like both the breakdown of the past and tradition and convention and the foundations and structures that have governed the reality, and the transition into like some new emerging age, literally, paradigm, literally. And when we have this activated, as we're about to have it activated by the sun now, I think this is supersizing or supercharging our transition away from this centralized, withheld power and control, as the decentralization and personal power associated with this new incoming energy begins to rise throughout the collective to a greater and greater extent. I do think that the information that comes out is going to lead to a trend in personal self-empowerment now and moving forward. And again, like, it could be any information, all information, any information for every single person. It's what that is going to differ. But there is something empowering about the information that we're going to be more and more exposed to, or gain a clearer and clearer, or more in-depth, actually probably is a better way of saying it, understanding of moving forward. Uranus right now is a glass bottom boat, reveals undersea wonders. It's 0 degrees of the sign of Gemini, having to do with news, having to do with information, having to do with our mental frame on things, our perception, what we're learning, what we're talking about, the topics of conversation. And of course, that's also the sign where Venus is forming this square right now. So there could be some shocking news, information, revelations, things being exposed, seeing under the surface in ways that perhaps we haven't before, that really, really changes things. And again, it's going to be in this more decentralized, self-empowering direction. I think that this Sun-Pluto opposition could actually bring some major blow to authority or leadership, or again, like the power structures, long held, also secrets or lies or things that have been like hidden or deceitful, radical exposure that leads to endings, losing control, revolt, and revolution. On Monday, interestingly enough, we have the Sun at 30 degrees of sign of Cancer before the Sun leaves Cancer and enters Leo on Tuesday. That Sabian symbol is a daughter of the American Revolution. Simultaneously, we have the Earth always in a direct opposition to the Sun at 30 degrees with sign of Capricorn. That Sabian symbol is a secret meeting of men responsible for world affairs. And that's interesting too, as I'm saying that, because we're talking about a daughter of the American Revolution. That would be the feminine energy being like literally like just like stated there. And then we've got a secret meeting of men responsible for world affairs. There's the masculine dynamic as well. So that's interesting that we've got masculine and feminine represented, like literally spoken of on that symbolic degree polarity. But those two symbols, you know, even if you take that out of it, like therein lies the battle at hand. I feel like in general, in everything, that is the like, I don't know, like the fuel or the driving force behind this greater transition that's underway right now. This is personal power, individual authority, individual autonomy, and the power to, of, and for the people. A daughter of the American Revolution at odds, up against, facing off with, or opposed to previously and long withheld and established and hidden power dynamics, reigns of power and control, systems of power and control. So that does seem to be, you know, on a greater, more existential level, what on one hand, Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries, like Saturn and Aries is the emperor energy to me. Neptune breaks things down. It's like the destruction of the emperor or empire or something like that. And then on the other side of that, it's this revolutionary energy, this empowerment and awakening of the people on the other hand. And perhaps we could see things coming into, you know, context or fruition throughout the course of the week that somehow plays off of those type of themes. Narratives and mind control also that I think have been utilized in order to maintain perhaps a level of order, structure, power control are breaking down here. Like the spells being broken, the illusion is dissolving, people are waking up. Like this is great awakening energy. The kind of like buzzword little slogan, the Great Awakening, has been real common and quite popularized over the past several of years. But like this is it, this Pluto-Uranus trine, and every time that it's being activated, this is the Great Awakening coming online. And I do think that this week is probably going to be another like critical moment in the process of that building momentum. I do think though, as I've stated, that Mercury energy, Mercury retrograde energy specifically, is basically running the show this week. The past redos what has happened, what needs to be changed, fixed, corrected, maybe mistakes we've made in the past. All of this type of thing could be relevant, maybe lessons that we learned and what we're not going to do again could be something that for some reason is highlighted this week. Also, I would allow for the potential, as I stated in the beginning, you guys, communication and technology failures, Wi-Fi not working, running super slow. If you got to like upload things and stuff, make sure that you double check it and don't just like assume that it happened, because there could be just issues with the internet going on this week. Also calls dropped, text not going through, like no service issues, and also maybe issues with transactions, paperwork, travel, itineraries, schedules, miscommunications, misunderstandings, misprint, and things breaking, falling apart, and breaking down, needing to be repaired, needing to be replaced. Things to do with tech could be prominent with this. Things also to do with like cars or vehicles, motors, engines, machines. Also, be real careful, like injuries, illness, body issues are just more likely when we've got a situation going on like this. Also, mental health issues with Mars and South Node in the sign of Virgo, things to do with the nervous system, digestive issues could be more common ailments right now, and also like cuts, burns, things to do with the hands. So be careful if you're dealing with like blades or hot objects and fire and stuff like that as well. There could be like damage and destruction through fire, through heat, by like storms and stuff this week as well. So, you know, be careful if you are dealing with fire, and maybe just like some things to be mindful of. This is, though, as I had mentioned earlier, a fantastic week to clean out your closet, under the bed, the storage unit, you know, go through the garage, shining a light and correcting, fixing, cleaning up areas we generally don't think about that contain all of our hidden clutter and all the stuff we just sort of push to the background but don't normally go through. Very supported in this energy. This could also be about having to face down or conquer or overcome some type of fear that maybe has kept us trapped, subservient, or held back in some type of a way in the past. So there's that end of it as well. Now, Monday specifically, with that square going on between Mars and Virgo and the nodes and also the moon, there is this very informational, verbal conflict, disagreement energy out there. It's going to be hard to avoid. No one seems to know. No one is looking in the right direction. No one has their head on straight. People think they're saying one thing, but they're saying something else. And literal like male, female issues could be coming up here with the Venus-Mars square, or there could just be a sense of like inner unrest. Like we may just like not be able to get on the same page with ourselves for some reason. Conflict in relationships, of course. Most specifically though, again, like these karmic issues, things from the past actions that are some type of catalyst maybe for conflict or confrontation now, upsetting the peace, upsetting the harmony and the balance in things. These rumors, this gossip, this like information that could be spreading like wildfire, probably lots and lots of drama playing out with Mercury also retrograde in Leo. Like with Mercury in Leo, you guys, that is a very performative verbal expression about things. That is, you know, putting on a show. That is the drama cranked all the way up. And as people are disagreeing perhaps about things, I just think that the responses are likely to be quite dramatic, maybe a bit like over the top, and again, like in a way maybe that does need to go back and be corrected somehow. But cognitive dissonance, you guys, with the Venus-Mars square with the nodes, I also think could be a major struggle this week, especially because the moon is right there. The moon and Venus, that's like only wanting to embrace the information that we like. And actually just, if the side of the story is presented that like counters what we want to think, what we want to believe, what we want to understand about a situation, this also could result in like utter communication breakdowns, people just losing it, people actively getting out of situations or avoiding or neglecting or abandoning things. Betrayal could be a part of this as well. But I don't think people are going to be super willing to accept alternative facts if they are opposed or sort of disagree with what it is that we want to think, want to understand, how we want to see things, and what we want to believe in this energy. Hence this like cognitive dissonance where, you know, people could really be attached to one version of things, you know, really like tied in on like a heart and emotional base level there. But then there's these alternative details perhaps that are confronting them somehow that could really kind of have people spiraling here as well. So I do think a lot of people may be living in a reality of their own rose-colored glasses or preferred perception this week, despite the emergence of these alternative facts, and that could be causing issues also. It's not a rational energy. This is not a logical energy, okay? This is not a clear-minded, mentally balanced energy. If you've got like bookkeeping or stuff like that you need to do this week, like real important documents that you are in charge of composing, you are going to want to be real careful. Make sure you're taking your time. Make sure you are like double checking everything. And also understand that like even if you do that for some reason interference, distractions, not being able to like send the document, people not reading it or interpreting it properly and creating some type of issue. There's still a greater likelihood this week that we could just be, I don't know, like experiencing some type of difficulty in the communication or the relaying of details, facts, information. There's also, with Venus in the sign of Gemini, with the moon square Mars in the south node, you guys, like, this is a major desire not to be tied down. I have a feeling like it is very possible that a lot of people are just going to be up and leaving situations this week, like maybe relationships that they've been in, maybe if people have been questioning whether they should stay or whether they should go. I do think that people are more oriented towards going this week, ending relationships. Honestly, Venus in the sign of Gemini, a cafeteria with an abundance of choices. In the moon there, and Uranus at 0 Gemini, trining Pluto, and the sun about to oppose Pluto. I think that people are going to be desiring what we want, Venus in Gemini. More choices, more opportunities, more angles, more perspectives, more options, and just generally like not wanting to be committed, not wanting to be invested, not wanting to be tied down. The desire to roam and to experiment. Again, I've been saying over my videos this past couple weeks, the experimental nature of energy right now is turned all the way up. So I just think, especially if things are like people could literally be starting fights this week just because they're bored, just because they like want to, for seeming like a conflict could arise out of like seemingly nothing or for no apparent reason, yet we could find ourselves like embroiled in these relationship disputes going on. And again, I think that it's probably coming from a subconscious or an unconscious urge to not be held down, not be committed, not be invested, have more options, have more choices, be able to pick more willingly from things for some reason. Another thing with Venus and the moon together in the sign of Gemini, that's a very like not like dainty, but we have we want things to be communicated nicely, okay? Like that is a very strong appreciation for like gentle speech and kind of smoothing things over and not being too like blunt and to the point. And as a result of that, like the social graces end of the communication style, I think is going to be appreciated by a lot of people in this energy. But then we've got the square to Mars in the south node, and that is literally just giving it to you straight. Like that is very blunt and raw communication style coming through. Like just Venus and Gemini with the moon, it's like flowery language and like metaphors and like, you know, the niceties, like the verbal niceties and like things being presented in like a beautiful articulated flow. Mars in the south node in Virgo is like the cold hard facts and like zero care about like how you feel about it at all. Okay, so as a result of that, I do think that people, like a lot of people, and this could be causing the relationship issues also, like people offending other people with like the harshness of their language or of what they're saying or of the behavior. This could also, though, you know, betrayal, infidelity, strife, discord, past failures, personal weaknesses, mistakes, and poor choices could be coming up here, coming back around, being discovered in a way that also really like leads perhaps to some of these breakdowns that are likely to be going on in relationships right now as well. So, you know, those could be central themes, relationship dynamics, super highlighted here. Double check everything that is written, planned, scheduled, communicated. Be aware of the potential for blockage, interference, delays, cancellations, postponement, specifically of like meetings, dates, occasions, plans, like social events and stuff like that. This could also have to do with things that you, on one hand, like either really don't want to do, that you can't get away from and are just like, you know, not super happy about it, and it's creating some type of internal conflict. Or this could be bringing up things such as like illness or injury or delay or breakdown or interference, or even like traffic or something that is debilitating or preventing us from getting to our destination, from doing what it is that we want to do, from following through on like a plan or a schedule or an invitation or something like that. Like, I do think people are going to just be experiencing kind of like these random issues that like prevent them or interfere with their ability to do what they were supposed to do to get to where they were supposed to get to. Travel and transit seems to be full of delays and interference this week. So, you know, if you got travel plans, maybe again, like it can help our mental health if we go into it already knowing that it may take longer and be, you know, a bit more frustrating or just a mess than maybe we had anticipated. And you guys, Saturn right now, remember, still at the degree saving symbol 2 degrees of the sign of Aries, a comedian entertaining the group. Saturn does rule like our trials and tribulations and our tests and challenges and obstructions and stuff like that. So any way that we can make light of the situation, any way that we can like laugh at our challenges or just the way that things are, you know, coming together right now, or try not to take it so seriously, try to have a bit of like a lighter mental frame on things. I do think that is like playing into kind of this like grand cosmic comedy or tragic comedy that is underway right now, when and where appropriate, of course. I think that this is also kind of like a beneficial psychological tool that we can use to navigate this energy without giving ourselves a nervous breakdown from some of the stress that might be going on out there, because it is likely to be a very stressful week, and we'll get into that more as I talk about the energy for Tuesday. We've got the moon in Cancer going to be squaring Saturn and Neptune as well, which can enhance our levels of stress also. But again, like I said earlier, a lot of this stuff that's going on is not going to directly be your fault, but a consequence of something that just feels entirely and utterly out of your control. So there's that as well. And again, like, we just kind of need to go with the flow. We just kind of need to see how things play out here, you know, surrender where you can, have faith where you can. People are probably also going to be wanting to share their feelings and their desires about stuff with the Gemini moon conjunct Venus, maybe even like talking about what they're buying, what they're investing in, being probably quite verbally expressive about things. But this also could be a source of conflict, because it itself could be bringing up misunderstandings and breakdowns in communications, people misinterpreting things, people not being on the same page, having malaligned motivations and desires right now. You know, one person wanting one thing and the other party in the situation motivated by something completely different. Especially, you guys, this is happening, and it's happening all week actually. The square between Venus and Mars is going to change degrees throughout the course of the week. It is going to be like a several day exact alignment this week, as they do change degrees together. Venus moves faster than Mars, but it's going to take a couple of days for them to get out of alignment with one another. So we are going to be moving through this same square at different degrees throughout the course of the week. And of course, we'll be following along in real time as we narrate the shift of the ages on this channel this week. But the degree ranges between 19 degrees and about 25 degrees of mutable signs, of course specifically Gemini and Virgo, but by opposition Pisces and Sagittarius as well. If you have planets around those degree ranges, you are probably going to be experiencing just whatever discord this square is bringing up to the greatest extent. So if you do have planets, there, then maybe give yourself an extra break or a bit of a pat on the back or encouragement this week, or maybe just try not to put so much pressure on yourself, because this is, again, like, this is a tough deal. Like, this is not anybody's idea of a good time, I don't think. So we just kind of want to proceed accordingly and frame our mind in a way that understands that. Tuesday, Venus and Mars are still exactly in aspect with themselves and the nodes, doing their thing, carrying Monday's energy over. But the difference about Tuesday, this is where the shift comes in for Tuesday. I told you guys earlier, the sun enters the sign of Leo on Tuesday. That's bringing a vibe shift. The moon also leaves Gemini, enters the sign of Cancer. That's bringing a vibe shift as well. But this is taking the energetic emphasis actually away, amazingly, from the exactness of this nodal square and opposition with Mars and Venus, and reorienting us towards the ongoings of these big outer planets, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus, all in this entanglement, all in this like energetic intertwinement right now, which, again, I talked about this earlier and I've been talking about this for a while now, I do think is representing the Great Awakening and a giant leap. Like a small step for mankind, but a giant leap in terms of our paradigm shift into this new reality that's coming up. Okay, so that is because, you know, the moon entering the sign of Cancer, this is going to put the moon in a square to Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries, and we've also got the sun entering the sign of Leo, opposing Pluto, trining Saturn and Neptune and Aries, fire sign trine, and also sextiling Uranus at 0 degrees of Gemini. So that big, shocking downfall, yet emergence, crumbling, yet renewal, is super activated by the moon's placement and the sun's placement, both luminaries on Tuesday. Energy is so drained here as well, okay? We've got the sun opposite Pluto. That's like staring into the abyss. We have the moon squaring Saturn and Neptune. That is extremely detached out of it. That is also like a suck on energy right now. And then, of course, we've got Mars and the South Node in exact conjunction. We've got Venus and the South Node and Mars in exact square. So this is really, really dipping and suppressing our ability, I think, to feel robust, you know, full of like life and vitality. I do think that a lot of people might feel like they are having a hard time scraping themselves off the floor, getting out of bed, being engaged, having, again, like their head in the game on Tuesday. Do not push things. Be very careful. Be real careful, like operating big machinery or doing anything dangerous. Power struggles and feeling absolutely at the end of your rope, done with something, are very, very likely once we get to Tuesday and moving forward through the rest of this week. And actually, I do think the rest of this upcoming month as well, not willing to tolerate something anymore, like just at the point of no return in terms of some situation. And also, on sort of like the flip side of that, a building sense of rebellion or resistance, and also maybe self-empowerment that could be kind of in a way driving whatever it is that maybe we are ready to be done with in this energy. As I mentioned earlier, you guys, the sun at 1 degree of the sign of Leo on Tuesday, entering Leo, opposing Pluto. Under emotional stress, blood rushes to a man's head. This is the vibe right now. The moon in Cancer, very powerful, pure emotional energy, squaring Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. This is emotional stress. That aspect would represent some type of an emotional stress response that could be hitting on a collective level, microcosm, macrocosm. Mars conjunct the South Node in the sign of Virgo. This is blood rushing to a man's head. So that symbolism seems to be quite accurately depicting what I think a lot of people are going to be actively manifesting as we move into the energy of Tuesday. We also right now have Pluto at 3 degrees Sabian symbol placement of the sign of Aquarius. That Sabian symbol is a deserter from the Navy stands suddenly aware of a dawning truth. Freedom is never the result of compromise. And we're talking about a Cancer moon squaring that downfall of the emperor or the empire, or the loss of control energy that Neptune, Saturn, both retrograde in Aries, are representing. This is the people, this is the public, this is the collective emotional energy body at odds with illusions of control. Saturn and Neptune together, the downfall of establishments of government, and essentially like the rules that have structured our reality and the belief systems associated with them. To me, that is what this Saturn-Neptune retrograde conjunction right now is ultimately representing, especially considering the fact that this is sextile Uranus, sextile Pluto, while they're in a trine. The breakdown and the downfall of the old reigns of power as this new radical change somehow emerges in a way that we can't predict and don't have a past precedent for even understanding. So as a result of that, you guys, I do think we could see some rebellion or people actually like turning on in some way what was once foundational, or a foundational like structure, or a fact, a concrete, a surety that they never would have questioned before. There seems to be doubts coming up. This could also be honestly like biting the hand that feeds you, but because you no longer feel that you need the handout and you're no longer willing to settle for crumbs, like all of that type of stuff. Like, I don't know, again, Pluto and the Sun, powerful forces coming to a head, transitions in power, centralization to decentralization, where power has been contained and withheld in order to control, losing that grip of control for some reason as power is dispersed and rising within the individual. So we could see this coming about in a multitude of ways. And it could also feel like so hard, next to impossible, to get things done on Tuesday. Super spaced out, head in the clouds, tired, nervous, ungrounded, very unpredictable energy. Saturn and Neptune in the conjunction when this energy is activated. This is this like free-for-all energy. Like there's no borders, there's no boundaries, there's no rules, nobody's in charge. Like there's no discipline. Like I can't keep myself on a schedule. Like I can't like get myself in gear. Like I can't get my head in the game. And also representing this breakdown. So it could be real hard to motivate ourselves on Tuesday. But again, like the product, the outcome, the result, that's not the point of these moments that we're moving through right now. The point of these moments that we're moving through right now is to make corrections that have been needed to be made for a long time, that maybe we had even been unaware of, but are somehow integral in the process of what is to come next somehow. So you may find yourself just feeling like you're along for the ride again this week. The moon is also moving into a conjunction with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer on Tuesday. Jupiter is currently at 10 degrees of Cancer. That Sabian symbol is a large diamond in the first phases of the cutting process. Again, that could be a vibe, like there is something of tremendous value that is being uncovered, but these are just the initial phases, and maybe it's still like we still can't tell or discern what that thing really is. Maybe it still just looks like a big rock of dirt, and we are not yet aware of the fact that there is like a priceless diamond that is in the process of being carved into and uncovered through whatever we're going through now, just because things are not as they appear. Again, like the image, the projection, the presentation, the narrative is likely to be quite skewed right now somehow. And things are not as they appear. So that could somehow hold relevancy. And people could be extremely or overwhelmingly emotional or overly sensitive about things on Tuesday as well, with the Moon Jupiter conjunction, overblown emotions. This also could bring a level of like optimism or hope. You know, things could be looking up. People could be feeling a bit positive or optimistic. But with all of this, again, it's likely to be a false sense of optimism for some reason. Or maybe you are getting the bird's eye view, the bigger picture, seeing like the overall story unfold here. And maybe that is also, you know, bringing up some questions, some doubts, conflicting stories that we're having a hard time like processing or wrapping our head around for some reason. Or you could also similarly, or I guess this would be the exact contradictory energy, find yourself feeling so emotionally detached, so emotionally unavailable or disoriented that you could be struggling to like get your bearings or feel anything at all. So there could be like some very big, pronounced, prominent feelings coming through here, or we could just feel super detached from everything and have really no idea how we're feeling about anything as we move through the energy of Tuesday as well. But both Monday and Tuesday are a challenge this week. If you find yourself caught up in any of this stuff, you're not alone. The whole world, I think, is just gonna be in different ways experiencing things that play off of these same themes all week. It's a karmic reckoning, an active phase of karmic release. It may be bringing, therefore, the trials, the tests, the tribulations that do come with strong karmic energy. On Tuesday, Venus is at 21 degrees of the sign of Gemini. That Sabian symbol is a tumultuous labor demonstration. Mars is at 21 degrees of Virgo. I told you they are changing degrees throughout the course of the week. And so we're going to be talking about different degree placements for our Venus-Mars square as we do proceed through our week. And on Tuesday, we're looking at 21 degrees of Gemini and Virgo. Those two symbols together, organized efforts or protests could be a thing this week, a group effort towards obtaining some objective or towards a goal somehow. And again, like protests, a rebellion, like people not willing to like take orders laying down, feeling empowered for some reason to no longer comply. The dawning, the deserter from the Navy stands the dawning realization of truth, or whatever it was. Freedom is never a result of compromise. I do think, and I've been talking about this has been coming through in the tarot as well. A lot of people aren't going to be willing to settle anymore. And I think that is what is causing a lot of the changes in relationship dynamics as well. It's like we've awoken to something of real value, or it's like we've been through something that it's like, if I had to go through that, like if I could let go of that, like if I could get through that, then what on earth am I doing continuing to put myself in this situation? Like if I could make it through whatever that thing was, then I can definitely make it through like no longer needing to be a part of this. Whereas before we may have questioned whether we could be okay without that thing that we're ready to walk away from right now, or that relationship, or that, you know, hand that feeds you type of thing. At this point, I think a lot of people are just coming to a point where they're like, you know what? I absolutely needed that thing in the past, but for whatever reason now, I find myself in a position where I'm not willing to settle for that, and I don't need to, so I'm not going to. And so I'm going to assert myself maybe in ways that I haven't in the past as well. And this is where this like rebellious, revolutionary, like powerful confrontation and people no longer being willing to like bend the knee in certain situations does come into this. So wouldn't be surprised, you guys, if things along those lines manifest this week as well. But I guess my final 2 cents here is to just be real careful what side of the story that you are buying. It is better this week to kind of, I mean, Mercury's in the sign of Leo, like all the world is a show right now. Like it really is a circus out there. Like it really is, so much is more performative than actually accurate and factual. And there's a strong likelihood that both sides of the story are factually skewed in one way or another. So it is better, I think, this week to let things play out as opposed to get attached to any one side or version of something, because Mercury retrograde, like corrections, errors, mistakes, things not being what they appear to be, and you know, the conflict that can result, especially in interpersonal dynamics. So that's what I have to say in terms of the astrology today, you guys. We got a tarot reading that we need to get into now. This reading to me, again, seems to be just like confirming the impression that I get from the astrology that like nobody really knows whether they're coming or they're going right now. I think a lot of people are going to be questioning feelings. I think there's a lot of seeds of doubt that are likely to be planted for one reason or another, probably because of something that we are hearing throughout the course of the week. And I also don't know, like I think people are going to be questioning offers, like not sure whether they should do it or not, like not sure whether they can trust it or whether it's like more of just like a fleeting like what's that word, a blast of hot air, full of hot air, whether people are just like full of it basically, or whether it's something that they can actually trust or rely upon to become what the offer appears to be. Reason why I'm saying that, I only had one card come out of the deck on my shuffles today, and it was the Ace of Cups, but it landed, you know, sideways. And for me, I mean, everybody, there's a million different ways to read tarot. It's interpretation of symbolism, so everybody has their own style. There's, to me, like no real rules when it comes to the way that universe is speaking to you. And to me, when I have a card that comes out and, you know, it's looking at me sideways, it's like I'm neither here nor there. And so with the Ace of Cups, this is like emotional renewal. This is like the birth or the beginning of just kind of like a new way of feeling about things. With it on its side, it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can trust this. Like, I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's not worth it. I don't know if it will like end in disappointment. Like, I don't know if it will truly be fulfilling, or maybe it will be. Maybe it will be the most fulfilling thing that I've had in a while. Just kind of like in a state of not being sure. And then the cards that I'm seeing on the back of the deck, it's like the Knight of Wands, the Page of Pentacles, like this offer or this opportunity or this concept of what could become. Like, is it just a whim? Like, is it just a passion? Like, is it just, again, like this like smoke or this like hot air, or like what is the motivation that is driving the offer? And not really sure if we can trust it, if it is going to become what the suggestion is. The Knight of Wands to me is it's a passionate energy. It's like it's things coming quickly, you know, coming with fervor. Like, there's a lot of charisma and charm that's associated with it. Like, it seems like a really good offer, a really good idea, but there's like no staying power. Like, there's not a whole lot of sincerity there. Like, again, it's more like performative and like self-serving than necessarily like something that is going to stick around and that we can trust and rely on. And then when the Page of Pentacles, this is like what could be. And again, this is kind of more of a like initiatory, but maybe like naive and very like idealistic and hopeful energy. But like, is it the real deal? Like, will it bring like true, authentic, long-lasting fulfillment? Or is it more of just like a passing trend, or like something that's in and out, or like here for a good time but not a long time, or something that's like more juvenile or more immature or just less serious? and maybe not knowing if that's what we want to commit to or invest in, or if that's the basket that we want to put our eggs into, or if that's the cup that we want to fill up. So I don't know. I do think that the tarot message to me, it's also suggesting perhaps being in a state of kind of questioning things that are playing out right now. And maybe feeling even like on an intuitive level, not truly sure, or on an intuitive level, maybe knowing that this thing is not going to last all that long, but maybe like experiencing emotional conflict because maybe it is what we want, it is what we desire. Maybe there is an element like of our ego wrapped up in it somehow, or like wanting to see where it will go, even though we know that it's not going to go anywhere. So I don't know, maybe that could have to do on some level with some of this relational conflict that's going on this week as well. Also, I can't remember if I like emphasized this enough in the report today or not. I feel like I didn't, but there could be some major financial stuff, transaction-based stuff, deals, negotiations, that are kind of like falling apart, or that are just like emphasized or highlighted this week for some reason as well, maybe in the context of the conflict-oriented nature. With Mars in the South Node also in the sign of Virgo, squaring Venus and Gemini, I don't know. I don't think this is like a great week for financial markets, especially traditional money and economies and financial markets like the stock market and stuff like that. Seems like it could be also hitting a bit of a low this week for some reason, maybe. But that's not to say that the crypto market is going to be affected the same way. It may be, but remember, we're also talking about this emphasis of the trine between Uranus and Pluto, Gemini and Aquarius. That to me is representing the incoming like reign of cryptocurrencies in terms of a new perhaps like financial system that is emerging as well, while there's this breakdown of the standard ways that things have been done in terms of money and finances and value and currency in the past as well. So we could see something that goes on having to do with I don't know, like a breakdown in financial markets, while also like crypto or like alternative currencies maybe are not impacted to the same extent. So, I mean, maybe they could be, maybe it will hit everything because this is this energetic low, and it is in the sign of Virgo, which is about the harvest. There could also be like losses to crops and stuff like that, or like food shortages, or I don't know, like destruction to property or something like that occurs as well. But anyways, I'm gonna stop with all of that now. We're gonna get one more card. We have to get a synchronicity card, you guys. I am asking God, Spirit, Universe for one final piece of guidance or advice. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? And our message for today, you guys, says persist, which I feel like we've gotten recently. So we're not giving up, okay? Despite the way that things may feel or seem or be pressing on us throughout the course of the week, we are being directed to persist, okay? Because of his persistence, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be opened to you, Luke 11:8. Nothing is too large or too small, and your persistence in believing in God's ability to provide you whatever it is you seek will bring you to your goal. Persistence, waiting, patience, and never failing faith will lead you to your goal. And, you know, I really feel the same. Again, this week is all about sort of like being caught in the jam, delays, postponements. Again, like this perception maybe of taking one step forward and two steps backwards, but we need to not attach to our perceptions of, you know, being in rewind or something this week. Things are at a bit of a dip right now. When they come up, they're going to go up higher than where we've been before. And persistence, waiting, patience, and never failing faith is going to get you where you want to be. Remember, we have had this past week, and we do have on Monday, Mars in the South Node conjunct at 20 degrees of this sign of Virgo. That Sabian symbol is a caravan of cars headed to promised lands. There could be a lot of traffic, you guys. It could be a big traffic jam on our way, on our path to the promised lands. But regardless, that's the direction we're headed. We are in the car, we're in the vehicle, we're in transit, we're moving that way. We may have to deal with waiting, patience, never failing faith, and persistence, but ultimately we're going to end up getting to our next phase, okay, our next chapter, this next upgrade that we're all collectively going through right now as well. So I'm gonna stop talking now, you guys. That is our message. Persist, a message from the stars, a message from the cards. I hope you liked the video. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, you guys, share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content. Leave me comments, let me know if you are having experiences that reflect what I'm talking about in these videos. Super valuable information to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you all so much. I sincerely am grateful for your presence on my channel and your interest in narrating the shift of the ages with me. If you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group, as you guys know, linked in my description box below. Click that link. You will see I post images of the boards, my boards in that group. So that's where you can find that. And come back with me, you guys, on Wednesday. As I have stated, we will have a new moon in the sign of Leo that we need to talk about, and you don't want to miss that one because our new moon videos are our imprint, our energetic imprint, our energetic blueprint for the 4-week lunar cycle that is encapsulated within that new moon energy. So we get a glimpse into the next 4 weeks in the next video, you guys. I will be here to talk all about it. You don't want to miss it. I will see you then. Have a really beautiful introduction to your week, you guys, and until next time, bye.